Cutter top 10, Cutter top 10. You know you liked it a lot. Time to see who is the best and the worst that's left. You know, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, NASCAR, wrestling. If I have to, so please join me. Why don't you read? This is Cutter's top 10. Hey there, Heather, ho there! It's Jeff, Cutter, Diamond. We're ready to rumble! Oh. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff, Cutter, Diamond, and this top 10 block starts on Thursday, May the 19th, 2016. Of course, there's been a little bit of a gap because Wednesday was Blue Shirt Underground radio night, and I didn't want to do any top 10s during that time. So the Raptors right now, it's about an hour away from their game 2 against the Cleveland Cavaliers for the Eastern Finals. I know Cleveland pasted Toronto, but you know, Toronto could get the last laugh one of these days. Golden State tied their series with Oklahoma City in the West last night by pasting them thanks to Steph Curry. Blue Jays sucking as usual. Ugh, that just makes me cringe. What else is new this past few days? Not a lot. Oh, Canada is in the World Championship of Hockey semifinals on Saturday, but they get the Americans, so there's going to be some conflict with my Facebook buddies and my Blue Shirt Underground buddies because Canada, United States. Russia will play Finland in the other semifinal. The Canada-US semifinals at 1:15 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, by the way. 10:15 a.m. Pacific. It'll be about 8 p.m. in Russia and like 1 in the morning in Japan. So anyway, yeah, that's it. So anyway, I'm going to present this video first. It was randomly picked. It's the top 10 worst trades in New York Mets history, and of course I will tag a few people in Facebook because of their love for the Mets. All right, just to let you know, there were a couple of honorable there were a couple of honorable mentions in the Mets trades. One honorable mention was the Mets getting Oliver Perez. Now, the Mets traded a greenhorn Xavier Nady to Pittsburgh for Roberto Hernandez, or as he was formerly known as Fausto Corona, and Oliver Perez. Nady had good numbers, but going to San Diego, his numbers were better. Oliver Perez really struggled. In 7 starts for the 2006 Mets, who went all the way to the NLCS, he went 1-3. And he was 2-10 with a 6.63 ERA in Pittsburgh as is. He actually rebounded in 2007, but, you know, it was just terrible with his erratic control. Ironically enough, if you look at Cutter Historical in one of my YouTube videos, MLB The Show 10 or something, I pitched a no-hitter with Oliver Perez. So that was weird. Honorable mention number 2 is K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez, for Danny Herrera and Adrian Rosado. So anyway, the Mets decided to get rid of Francisco Rodriguez because there was a strained relationship between K-Rod and the Mets. Rodriguez had 23 saves for the Mets, but then he was traded to Milwaukee for a couple of stiffs. And then he was even better for the Brew Crew, helping them out in ways imaginable. Danny Herrera pitched 8 innings for the Mets, and Rosario never got above AA before retiring. Terrible. Terrible. Number 10 in the worst trades in Mets history, trading David Cone to the Jays. Now you can make the arguments that... Oh no, wait a minute. That argument is incorrect. I was going to say the argument about David Cone with the Royals and the Mets. But the Royals traded him to the Mets for Ed Hearn. Mea culpa. So anyway, the Mets needed to try something good. David Cone was in his prime of his career. He was an all-star, and the Mets decided to trade David Cone to Toronto. The last day of the waiver trade deadline. Cone would have helped the Blue Jays in the '92 World Series. Not a lot with pitching, but with the bat, he actually got a couple of hits. I think in Game 2 of the World Series. He had some good years. And then David Cone Just as soon as he got to Toronto, he left in a flash. He went to Kansas City in a free agency move, and it was part of the 94 and won the 94 Cy Young Award when he went back to Kansas City. Unfortunately, the Mets never got him back. The Blue Jays did get David Cone back in 95, but after half a year, traded him to the Yankees for Chris Steins, among others. Although the Mets did actually get Jeff Kent in return for Cone, and of course the Blue Jays didn't even know that Jeff Kent was going to be that good, and also a lackluster guy by the name of Ryan Thompson. Jeff Kent had his great years with the Giants and nothing more than filler for the Mets. Kent was actually used as part of a trade to get Carlos Viagra from the Indians, which was a terrible move. Viagra did nothing for the Mets. And of course, Jeff Kent went from Cleveland to San Francisco, and I think in the Matt Williams deal. Something like that, because Matt Williams went back to Cleveland. Number 9 on the list. Trading for Mo Vaughn. Getting Mo Vaughn. Mo Vaughn's one of the worst players in Mets history. He got traded, well, he used to play for Boston, and then he went to Anaheim in free agency. It was in this Angels-Mets trade that the Mets gave up Kevin Appier, who was well known for being a good pitcher for the Kansas City Royals back in the late 90s. Appier had a solid season for the 2002 Angels that won the World Series, and they shouldn't have. And then age caught up to him. Mo Vaughn had a huge contract attached to him from Anaheim. He was paid for 3 baseball seasons and earned $50 million. And this is in the early 2000s. Mo Vaughn only played 166 games because of injury for him and delivered a .249 batting average with 29 home runs. Although one of those home runs was big because it hit off the Shea Stadium scoreboard and off a beer ad. The longest home run to hit a scoreboard, I think, in history. Can't remember. Number 8, trading Mookie Wilson for Jeff Musselman. When the Mets traded away Mookie Wilson, it was about time. But Mookie Wilson was an icon for the Mets. He was the guy who in '86... Let's not talk about the Bill Buckner ground ball, because that's not all he's known for. I mean, Mookie Wilson fouled off 6 or 7 pitches in the bat against Bob Stanley, and of course Bob Stanley threw the wild pitch to score the tying run, and then Mookie hit that ground ball. So yeah, Mookie Wilson took Bob Stanley for a lot of pitches before that ground ball. In 1989, Mookie was sent again. The Toronto Blue Jays got the better of the Mets. Mookie was sent north for Jeff Musselman. I don't know who the minor leaguer was, but anyway, it paid dividends for the Blue Jays. They had a speedier outfield. I mean, the Blue Jays ended up trading Jesse Barfield in April of '89 to the crosstown Yankees. Musselman did well, but he was finished in 1990. And he retired at age 27. Mookie Wilson spent a few years for the Blue Jays. I don't know what happened to him after. I don't think he played past 1990 for the Blue Jays. Number 7, trading Scott Kazmir for Victor Zambrano and Bartolo Forciano. The Mets traded away one of their best draft picks ever. In 2002, Scott Kazmir was this well-known lefty. And they traded away Kazmir to get MLB-ready players to take him to the World Series. It didn't work, and the trade of Scott Kazmir to Tampa is one they regret. Kazmir has been a steady pitcher when he's been healthy over the past decade. He's a 3-time All-Star and is highly respected. The Mets picked up Victor Zambrano, who was decent for Tampa Bay, but when he left, well, he's known as Carlos's brother, but Victor was the main man for Tampa Bay, and then the Mets picked him up. In 3 seasons, Zambrano only won 10 games with a 4.42 ERA. Number 6, trading away Rusty Staub. Rusty Staub belongs in the Hall of Fame. And the Mets made a dumb trade in December 1975 involving Staub. Now let's take a look at this. Rusty Staub did not start his career with the Mets. He started his career with Houston, and then Montreal picked him up in the expansion draft. Houston really thought that he wasn't worth it. Legrand Orange helped Montreal well for 4 years before getting rid of him to the Mets for, I don't know who the Mets traded away to the Expos. So anyway, following the year that he got 105 RBIs for the Mets, Staub was sent to Detroit with Bill Waxton for Billy Baldwin, not the actor, and Mickey Lolich. Baldwin didn't do that well, and Mickey Lolich, at age 35, couldn't do much. The roly-poly left-hander went 8-13 with a 3.22 ERA. a far cry from his 1968 World Series MVP stuff. And then Lolich actually missed all 1977 because he wanted to open a donut shop. So, but over in Detroit, Rossi Staub was thriving. He was an all-star his first year with the Tigers. And he actually ended up one year taking 5th place in the AL MVP voting. The Expos got him back. A little too late, but that's okay. Number 5, trading Mel Rojas for Bobby Bonilla. And no, Mel Rojas was not traded to the Expos. I know that Mel Rojas is famous for being with the 94 Expos, but that's not the truth. This is one of those trades where the Mets were smart in trading him, but they screwed up by reacquiring Bobby Bonilla. As you know, Bonilla makes $1 million each year from the Mets, and will continue to do so for 20 plus more years. It was the trade with the Dodgers that brought Bonilla back to the Mets for 1999. As you remember, Bobby Bonilla was a big free agent signing from Pittsburgh to the Mets in 93, if memory serves me correct, or 92, I can't remember. I think it was 93 because 92 he played for the 92 Pirates, who blew their chance to go to the World Series. So anyway, Rojas and Bonilla didn't even connect with their new teams. Unfortunately, the Mets were like, why did we get Bobby Bonilla and why did we go with that contract? Number 4, getting rid of Amos Otis. Amos Otis was a famous player. Not for the Mets. The Mets had a lot of outfielders and all that. And the weird thing is, it was only a few months after Man walked on the moon. So after the 1969 World Series season, the Mets decided to trade Amos Otis to Kansas City because he wasn't getting a lot of playing time behind Cleon Jones, Don Clendenin, and Tommy Agee, among others. Kansas City picked him up, along with Bob Johnson, to get rid of Joe Foy. The Mets actually needed to trade Amos Otis to get a good third baseman. And as I probably said in another video, the Mets have had bad luck with third basemen from 1960, their exception in 62 to about 1984 when they picked up Howard Johnson in a trade with the Tigers. And Howard Johnson won the World Series with the 84 Tigers and then in the 86 Mets. Joe Foy only played 99 games for the Mets and boasted a .236 batting average. Meanwhile, AO, as they call it, was famous. He had more than 13 years with the Royals. He was a franchise player for the team that was in their second season in 1970, a 5-time All-Star, and won several Gold Gloves. Number 3, trading Lenny Dykstra to the Phils. Lenny Dykstra was an integral part of the 86 World Series team. Now, when I first knew who Lenny Dykstra was, it was from the 1993 World Series video with the Jays and the Phils. I had no clue Lenny Dykstra played for the 86 Mets. But what I do know is that he was better than, Denny Heap. So anyway, Dykstra was a big part of the Mets. I didn't know he played for the 86 Mets. Well, of course, I was 15 when I started getting my information. But anyway, in the middle of the 89 season, the Mets needed to get rid of Dykstra. And they sent him to the rival Phillies, along with Roger McDowell, which was another kick to the nuts for the Mets, for Juan Samuel, because they wanted Juan Samuel to help in the outfield and second base. And he was a good speedster. He was a speedster. They needed a speedster. Dykstra got better. His first season with the Phillies, he got to the All-Star game, and he was part of the 93 team that nearly stole the World Series from the Jays. Nearly. And Lenny Dykstra almost would have got the World Series MVP if it wasn't for Paul Molitor's heroics. Samuel only stayed with the Mets for the remainder of 89 and did terribly. Number 2, trading away Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan has pitched for 4 teams in his major league career. It was the Mets who originally drafted Ryan and then traded him to California before he was 25. Nolan Ryan actually did play a few playoff series for the 1969 Mets when they won the World Series. So he has a World Series ring with them, technically, which was amazing. And then the Mets decided to trade him to California, mostly because A, they had a good rotation as is, and B, they needed a third baseman. Enter Jim Fregosi, longtime Phillies and Jays manager who I think passed away a few years ago, if memory serves me correctly. In his first year with the Angels, Nolan Ryan won 19 games and went to the All-Star game. Amazing. It was also the first of many seasons he led the league in strikeouts. And Jim Vergolsi only ended up playing 146 games for the Mets, 233 batting average, 5 weak home runs, and not much in the way of infield work. It was just terrible. Nolan Ryan would go on to help Houston and Texas do well. Well, Texas, he never got to play with them, but, you know, it doesn't matter. And number one, trading away Tom Seaver to the Reds. Gieck. The Mets knew how good Tom Seaver was, but Tom Seaver kind of may have screwed himself over by asking for too many raises, and Mets chairman Grant said that I can't do that. I can't pander to him. So anyway, Grant forced his GM to trade Tom Seaver in June of 1977 in what they called the Merry Night Massacre in Metland. The Mets did get 4 players back: Doug Flynn, Steve Henderson, Dan Norman, and Pat Zachary. Zachary was kind of the big guy of the deal because Pat Zachary was famous for being in the 75 and 76 World Series. And Seaver actually did pretty well for the Reds. He had a 14-2 mark for the 1981 team that should have went to the NL playoffs in the split season, but thanks to the split season format, the winner of the two halves got to bump into each other, whereas it should have been like best overall record. I know in saying that screws the 1981 Expos out of the playoffs. But anyway, Seaver did pretty well. In 6 years with the Reds, he won 75 games and got a 3.18 ERA. He actually did come back to the Mets for 1 year in 1983, going 9-14. It was just terrible. But anyway, after the Tom Seaver trade, Shea Stadium was known as Grant's Tomb, and attendance went down so fucking fast. So anyway, that's the top 10 Mets regretful trades. I hope my Mets fans like them. I will not take the shut up cutter thing very lightly. I'm Jeff Diamond. There will be more top 10s coming up soon.